Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second episode podcast recording of whatever to be named later. Martino, Puccio, Mike Phillips, alongside all of you. Obviously, last time we discussed and had a podcast, Mike, regarding the New York Mets, there was a lot of questions up in the air regarding this player here on the bottom, which we obviously figured out where he went, as you could see there, and obviously breaking news right before this recording regarding the Mets and who they signed. So a crazy, you don't even have to say 24 hours. This is more of like a 14-hour window or 12-hour window
That's about
where,
six.
yeah, where the entire Mets offseason is shaping up to change drastically. So let's start with first things first, right? Kyle Tucker news started slowly, taking a lot of time where it didn't seem like Toronto's offer was satisfying him in terms of years, and AAV, excuse me. And it really seemed like the Mets were primed to swoop in and get Tucker at the huge offer that they sent out. And Jim Duquette confirmed it yesterday for 4 years, 220 million was the final offer that the Mets made for Kyle Tucker. Enormous, would have been one of the highest paid players in baseball. But lo and behold, the Los Angeles Dodgers. This is Thanos level of FU money that they could just do whatever they want when they actually feel like it. So Kyle Tucker ends up heading to the Dodgers, Mike, and it's record money, even on a short-term deal. He gets his opt-outs involved in there. Very low pressure, like a lot of people had expected him to kind of drift towards because of his personality. And it's something that you called. You had a very good day, which we'll get into. But you thought Dodgers lurking. And in hindsight, it makes a ton of sense. There was no noise with the Los Angeles Dodgers regarding this. It was Mets, Blue Jays, Mets, Blue Jays. Blue Jays are going on. Mets have a high AAV offer. Dodgers are like, oh, we actually have the best offer on the table. So your initial reaction to it.
Can't say I'm surprised considering I told you off air yesterday. We talked, I think, was it 2 weeks ago we talked about this? I said, don't forget the Dodgers with Tucker. It feels like a fit. And the Dodgers are the ultimate, like you play pickup basketball, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. They are the ultimate basket hangers where they're going to hang back, wait. And then when there's an opportunity to go dunk the ball, they'll dunk the ball and just get their points here. And this is a spot where Tucker, he had two very good offers. He had a long one from the Blue Jays. He had a high AAV one from the Mets. It was over 50 a year. And they ended up going 220, which is more money a year than Soto gets. The fact he didn't pick either led me to believe, okay, this is a guy who wants the Dodgers in some way and probably took both offers back to LA and said, which one will you do? I will take either. Please take me. And then they took the shorter Met route, basically adds some deferred money in, give a huge signing bonus. Here we are.
Yeah, so the signing bonus for the Dodgers was 64 million, 54 of it up front. The Mets reportedly had 75 million up front to Tucker. There's no deferrals in that deal that the Mets offered to him. Honestly, speaking from a Mets fan perspective and not just being objective for a moment, it's really difficult to get upset at David Stearns and Steve Cohen in this instance because how much better of an offer can you make, right? Like you're there for record AAV, short-term dollars. This is a player that you could use and could need. There are question marks about him. He's not that young, but he's young enough to warrant this type of deal at that number, especially on the short term. I think we were all in agreement. Like, what else can the Mets do in that instance? These are the back-to-back World Series champions, and they're paying him the most money of any player in Major League Baseball on an annual basis. Like, how do you compete with that? You really can't. Because it was one thing to get upset about not going an extra year or two on Edwin Diaz, but this is something. Even when the Yankees, Mike, were signing all the players in the world and getting the best, it never felt like this. The way the Dodgers are doing this seems, I guess, soul draining in a way for a lot of fans because it's sort of like, what is the point now? But I mean, the Dodgers just added two elite players off of a repeat. Like that's nuts, right?
It is. It's also, you got to remember here, this is the league's fault for this year because we all know what the Shohei Ohtani contract, but the league should never have allowed where they were able to defer $68 million here. And I don't care. The tax is 46. When you have a player who's worth $70 million and you're paying him $2 million a year, that's $68 million in found money you can use to do whatever you want with for the next decade. So that's something that helps here. And also, there's something that's circulating a bit. Yes, people forgot about this. their TV contract, which is a long-term 25-year deal that with Spectrum out there, they get to keep, I think they only get to send $84 million to revenue sharing for the league. They have over $300 million in free money basically walking in the door every single year. So, like, that's more of the payrolls of most teams in the league. And they'll be able to just redistribute as much as they want. And the Guggenheims, I know about their assets. And they have a ton of money. You know, they have over $300 billion in assets, not million, billion.
Yeah.
Like, they can do what they want whenever they want here. And the league, this is a problem they're going to have to deal with the CBA here to figure out either you got to get the Dodgers off that free $300 million and loop that back in. That was a thing that was thrown in during the sale from the courts to Guggenheim to incentivize the deal there. And there was also, you got to close the loophole, these deferrals, because like the way that this is operating is nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's something the CBA and the competitive balance is going to want, because we all know at the end of the day, the likelihood of salary floor and a salary cap seems unlikely. More likely a salary floor if anything were to happen. I'm sure penalties will have to change, but the deferrals are the big thing, because sure, we've seen teams defer money. We've seen the Nationals do it. We know that the Mets have done it. They talk about it
contract the Nationals. They defer $105 million that contract.
Correct. Yeah, which they're now currently paying for.
Yep.
So my point is, like, we've seen this, but it comes to a point where it seems exploitation. Like, I mean, to me,
they're gaming the system. That's all it is.
Of course they are. These are exploitations of loopholes. Excuse me, and it just doesn't stop. And you know, sure, you could argue they needed Diaz because the bullpen was weak. Did they ever need Kyle Tucker? I understand people are probably going to say, oh, they only hit 200 in the World Series. Andy Paez didn't do a really good job. Shohei was struggling at times. Mookie Betts isn't the same level. Freddie Freeman is aging. It's like, guys, really? Are we going to do that? Are you going to do that?
I mean, like, they could have, for all, like, they wanted Kyle Tucker. They didn't need Kyle Tucker. They could have signed, like, Harrison Bader and played him center field, been just fine.
Correct. They could have made trades for lesser players. Like, they could have, like, what they did last year with Conforto. And, you know, even last year, right, I was like, oh, they're going in for Tucker if they didn't do for Soto. And then I kind of pulled that back because I was saying to myself, oh, they just repeated. Why would they need Kyle Tucker? This was, truthfully, in hindsight, for me now, this was the play all along. And I should have stuck by what I was thinking, because it just made that much sense, because the Dodgers didn't have to shell out $800 million for over 15 years, or for 15 years for Juan Soto. They got Kyle Tucker for this off of a repeat. That's just actually a much better deal for them. And our good friends were mentioning to us, who we won't name because of their jobs, that were like, the Dodgers are just making this money back anyways. And what a big thing about them was they were a top 3 brand in this sport, right, Mike, prior to this Shohei signing and, you know, even Guggenheim taking over.
Yeah.
They're not bigger than the Yankees as a brand, but they're very clearly established as the number 2 in baseball, historically wise. But currently, there's the Dodgers, and then there's everyone else. Final thoughts on the Tucker deal.
Yeah, I mean, you look like, I wouldn't even say just like our sources per se. I'd say just like, even in general, people would talk about like how much money they're making hand over fist on the Ohtani contract, because like all the merchandise and all the sponsorships and all that stuff, like they basically repaid that whole contract like a year and a half. So like
it's not just a domestic juggernaut; they're an international juggernaut. Just with the influence that they have in Asia.
Yeah, they're the team in Japan.
Yeah, it's literally most of their stars going there. So the Mets obviously had a pivot. It seemed a little devastating. We see Steve Cohen making Pope tweets, and then all of a sudden, right as I was hopping in the shower to get ready for this recording to talk about what just happened with Kyle Tucker, lo and behold, the Mets signed Bo Bichette out of nowhere. This is like from the top rope, Mike. So there really isn't a timeline for this at all. But to go back to credit for you again, you were like, earlier today, or it might have been last night, forgive me if I forget.
It was this morning. I said I would go do Bo Bichette.
And I was like, there's no way they do Bo Bichette. It doesn't make sense. They're putting him at third base. I just don't see them doing that if they're comfortable with Brett Baty. Boy, was I wrong, because it's a 3-year deal, $126 million. Sure, this could be a single year deal. There's multiple opt-outs within this. Bo has a no trade clause. They just swooped them away from the Philadelphia Phillies. This was an aggressive pivot, Mike. Bo Bichette is now going to be the Mets' third baseman heading into next year. And all of a sudden, that infield of Bichette, Lindor, Simeon, and you would assume Jorge Polanco for a good portion of the season is now their infield.
Yep. That's
The
pretty
point,
good.
I think it's a little bit better than the 2025 infield. What do you think?
Just a bit. And I will say, I was not even just today. Like I said back in October on Mets NSI, I said Bo
Yes,
Bichette is
you
the
did.
guy that Mets should be targeting here to replace Pete Alonso, because Pete Alonso is a guy who, elite power, not a great athlete in terms of, all around player. But David Stern seems to value here. Are the defensive questions about Bo Bichette going to third? Sure. Is his arm the greatest in that position? No. But at the same time, nobody on the market is going to protect Juan Soto any better than Bo Bichette is right now, because you cannot pay Juan Soto that much money, have him walk 200 times. I'm more concerned about Bo who hits the third hitter than Bo Bichette, the third baseman.
Yeah, which is crazy to say, because I know initially when you were floating the idea of Bo was for second base, which I actually liked. I like that idea a lot. But now you get an elite defensive middle infield. We'll see what ends up happening with left field. It's going to be corresponding to all these other moves. Obviously, this move in particular. There's low risk with this. He's still a relatively young age. I understand he has an injury history. But that comes with the territory. Tucker still had those issues, and truthfully, the rest of the players on the market weren't exactly guaranteed slam dunks that you have zero reservations about their signings. Cody Bellinger absolutely made no sense after reading the demands for years, AAV, and especially when Tucker got that deal. There was no shot the Mets were doing that.
They dodged the bullet there.
Dodged a bullet there, and then not only that bullet ended up hitting the Philadelphia Phillies, because they're the ones in this situation where they had a verbal agreement with Bo for 7 years, $200 million, Mike. And then the Mets come in at the 23rd hour and say, hey, Bo, come take this deal. It's only $74 million off of what you're getting, and it's 4 years less. Worst case scenario, Bo is here for 3 years, re-enters the market at around age 30, which is still a great age for a hitter like himself. I am absolutely floored by this. I'm stunned by David Stearns and Steve Cohen moving in for a player like this, because even if you did think it was a good idea, right? And it's not to take anything away from you, no one actually saw this coming. This wasn't reported anywhere. This wasn't the Mets might have Bo on their radar. And truth be told, a lot of names weren't kind of out there like that. But Passan had articles about, look at Lars Nootbaar, look at Framber Valdez, and all these other free agents. Never was Bo Bichette uttered. Bellinger was all over the place too. Bo Bichette, it's literally out of nowhere. What makes you think that the Mets just did that? Is this because his bat is the best by far?
I think it's the bat. I think it's 100%, because you have to remember here, and we talked about this back in December here, the Mets are not just going to not try in a year of Juan Soto's prime, and they have Francisco Lindor there. Like, this is a case where, you know what, this is the best bat available. You couldn't get Kyle Tucker. This is the next best thing. And the fact they got him on a short-term deal is fantastic, because, like, if Bo Bichette goes out and crushes it, great. You have flexibility, either keep him next year and re-sign him, or if you think somebody else can take that position, you can say, thank you for your service, Sarah, and move on. Whereas, like, if you had given like the long-term deal to somebody like, Pete Alonso, and like he has great 2 years, and he's falling apart in 3, you're screwed.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the Mets security here, and we've discussed this. They don't have a lot of money on the books on the long term, and even doing this deal, they still don't have that. The longest that we've really seen deals been given out via the Mets have been the Juan Soto one, especially in the David Stearns era. We see 3-year deals for Manaea. We see a 3-year deal here for Bo. And I don't think many Mets fans would be upset if he ended up even staying the 3 years. Because why not? Like, the worst that Bo Bichette will be as a player by then is still a really good hitter. Yes. Even if he's really poor defensively, even if he has injury issues, which a lot of third basemen don't have that. And moving off of shortstop is fantastic for his body. I think that's a little caveat that some people may not be thinking of, is that the wear and tear on your body athletically at the shortstop position, the amount of range that you need to cover is drastically different than third base. Now, third base is not easy to defend. We all know this. This goes a little bit against run prevention, but the funny thing that people may forget about run prevention is, yes, run prevention matters, but at a cost. If a guy is too good of a hitter, you will live with that. Just like they lived with Pete last year. Was he a great defender? No, but his bat was really good, so you didn't mind. But over the course of the next few years, you knew Alonso was not going to get better, and the bat likely declines, thus not being worth 5. Bo, I don't see, even if he does stay the 3 years, that this is bad. I could care less about the defense. Does the defense worry you?
No, it doesn't, because I mean, yet the one thing I'll say is the arm is something maybe keep an eye on here, because I know the reports that's around his arm are not great, and the throw from third to first is much longer. So maybe you wonder here, do we look at trying to find a first baseman who can scoop the ball there? That's something you can keep in mind here. Maybe
Mountcastle?
maybe it's Mountcastle. Maybe Brett Baty can do it if they move him there. Maybe maybe Vientos' a magical scooping skill we don't know about. We find that out in spring training.
Right.
Maybe Polanco does. But the point is here, you know what? I would rather have Bo Bichette's bat at 28, 29, and 30 theoretically than Pete Alonso all the way to 35. With potential
Absolutely.
where Bo's still going up theoretically. He's like in his prime right now. Pete is exiting his prime right by the time that deal ends.
And to a lot of people's points as well, just the type of hitter Bo is, pure contact. Not many guys hit over 300 these days, and Bo is one of them. He's premier, stepping up in huge moments as well. Not even really playing most of this past postseason, but steps into a role in the World Series where he's just dynamite. And it's another little thing that some people may not be talking about. And I know Heyman also had mentioned this is another leader in the clubhouse. That's a part of what David Stearns is also trying to fix here, because we heard of that fractured clubhouse. Even though, like, obviously, like, he's not going to say that publicly, but all the reports, all this stuff, like, we could point fingers at whoever, no one truly knows, but there was friction. Now you're getting better clubhouse guys. We're already hearing about stories about Marcus Semien being great at that. And obviously Bo is another player that really has that sort of respect amongst his peers. So just your kind of final thoughts, I guess, on this deal, because I think this is a slam dunk for the Mets. I don't even care that this is 42 mil a year. It really doesn't faze me at this point, because Kyle Tucker getting, what is it, like 18 million more per season? Is he 18 million more that much better than Bo Bichette? I'm inclined to say no. I really don't believe that, especially where the market is.
And I've also been like very inclined, and I felt the market was with me on this one here. Like, I think the Kyle Tucker short-term play is the correct play, because I've said I've worried that, like, I don't think he ages very well, because he doesn't he's very good at a bunch of things. He's not like elite in one category like Soto is, as just a pure hitter and knowledge of the strike zone. Like, my worry is like that contract, you getting a long-term deal. I feel like I said I've used the comment. I think he's Jason Hayward of this generation, where like he's a very good player, but like for what he's being paid,
I think it's a little disrespectful that Tucker's hitting, but I get what you're saying.
Like, he's a very good hitter. He's not elite like Juan Soto is as a hitter. Like, there's a big difference.
I think he was still an elite outfielder as a whole, but his defense was declining. Last year, I think really his injuries were large in part due to having that ball hit his hand, and he never really properly rested that, because he was incredible prior to that injury. He was one of the best players in baseball. He had 17 home runs leading up before that, and he only had 5 after. So I think that was a huge detriment to his season. Ended up costing him, I think, the years in free agency, because of the worry of him. He's never really consistent. I don't think he's ever played back-to-back years of 150 games either. So, yeah. But now, Mike, any final thoughts on the Bichette contract before we talk about where the Mets pivot from this?
No, I think like it is what it is. I think it is rather oppressive now. We've seen 2 of these top 3 position players on the market take these short-term like contracts that have like the opt-outs. Whereas like we saw it last year with Bregman, we've seen it with Matt Chapman, we've seen it with Blake Snell. Like, we have not seen like the consensus to the top 3 guys in the market say, we'll forego the years and take more money with the ability to reset our futures a year or 2 later. Like, that's like an interesting direction the league's gonna be looking at here.
That and I think a huge part of it is the CBA, right? I think it's a safety net for both sides. Whereas, if the Mets end up, keeping the player, they don't have them on the long term. If the rules change drastically and salary hurts them, it really wouldn't affect the Mets with Steve Cohen. But on top of that, it's also, for the players. If they don't want to go back out on the market, Bichette can stay there comfortably. Here's the no trade clause. I think that all matters. I wouldn't be shocked if Bo stays here for 2 years. Staying all 3 years, maybe. I mean,
I also,
what's wrong with re-entering the market at age 30? Say he stays healthy, proven to be a top third baseman or a good third baseman, maybe shift over to second base in his 30s. I don't think it's far-fetched, man. I really think that this is just a surprisingly really good deal. I just never thought it could have happened with that.
they basically give him the Alex Bregman contract, a little more money.
Yes, and Bregman has shown far more decline as a hitter and health
I-
wise.
I'm talking the Red Sox contract, not the not the Cub
Oh,
contract.
sorry. Yeah, I mean, well, listen, I don't even want to get on the Red Sox, but a good segue, Mike. Is Brett Baty going to be a Boston Red Sox soon? We're already hearing the rumors being floated out there of Baty. They love his positional versatility, which I believe, and I think that's true to a degree. But does it not remind you of the Jeff McNeil first base talk? And we love him in left. We could put him in center. He could be there. He could be anywhere. We love this guy. To me, it could be true partially, but not love him enough to not put him in trades for certain players that would elevate the New York Mets. Where do you see Brett Baty's future?
I think a lot depends on like what they view behind him, because I think three things you weigh with Bays: that he can play second. We saw this last year. He can't play third. He probably is enough of an athlete. He could learn first and be a lefty first baseman who can scoop for you, which is something that they could theoretically use with Bo Bichette over there at third. But I think you're looking at this in the sense of, okay, do we like what our options here? Like if Bo Bichette leaves after next year, let's say would you say that's a possibly on the
Yeah,
table here? We haven't crushed it.
of course.
It's if he leaves next year, what are we doing at third base? And if we
Mhm.
think we have guys behind him, whether it's Ryan Mauricio, who's played the entire winter at third base and can start in AAA there, whereas Jacob Reimer is their best prospect outside the Big Five, who could be a guy who fits that role in 2 years. And you trade Brett Baty, in my opinion. You see, like, okay, like, can I get a Jaron Duran for the outfield? Can I go get? Can I put him in a Freddie Peralta package? That would be something that clinches the Brewers. Like, do I do that? Or I just keep him as insurance and play him across multiple spots, multiple days a week, and just make my lineup a little deeper? They have options. I think it's good.
Yeah, I think that the options for the Mets here and the beauty of taking Bichette away from a team like the Boston Red Sox that were relatively interested, obviously losing Bregman as well, that need is there. Ultimately, I'm just curious as to what they want to trade someone like Brett Baty for. Because again, I don't think a deal for Tariq Skubal is likely, but it
No,
hasn't gone away entirely as a topic of discussion. Could just be for clicks, information, blah, blah, blah. But it's been known that the Detroit Tigers do like Brett Baty. Certain teams do like him. Is this also a potential? Hey, we saw flashes. It was good. Still had some injury issues. Do we sell high on Brett? Do
I
we actually think that bat is gonna? I think he's somewhere around the player that we saw last year. I think he was a respectable bat when he got the confidence, and he was a good defender. But teams value that because of just he has no position now, and there's years of control.
yeah. I think it's one of those things where I think like I've been in the market, like I would sell high on Beatty if I had options, because I feel like I don't think he's getting much better than he is right now. I think he's a fine, like I'd say second division starting player, where like he can be like, for a mid-market team, he can plug third base for you at an affordable rate and be fine and not
Right.
hurt you there. But like if you have the ability to aim higher, you can aim higher. I think the Mets can like sell high on Brett Baty if they think they have the depth within the organization to cover themselves in the event that either Bichette or Semien get hurt, or that Bichette
Yeah,
leaves.
exactly. Which is just what I'm thinking too. And with Acuna out of options, I don't think he's going to be the super utility player, right? Like hypothetically, that's where he would end up if he stays on this roster. Brett Baty to me is there's just so many things that they could do with him. I do truly believe they value him as a player, but everyone's got a price. If you're able to trade Brett Baty and say toss in David Peterson in a potential package, add in another minor leaguer or whatever to it for Jaron Duran, I mean, that's certainly feasible. I'm not entirely sure on the Milwaukee front when it comes to Freddie Peralta and how they would view Brett. Because again, they want major league ready players. We talked about that last episode. So I guess the final question to you will be, do you see Brett Baty being traded And if so, where? If Mike Phillips had to make a prediction, you're on a heater right now. So
My initial thought was the Duran thing, because the Red Sox have this situation here where, they lost Bregman. They were linked to the Bichette market, apparently never really entered. It was going to be the Phillies, if not the Mets. They have all these young kids, but they don't really love some of their options for a third. So they have a surplus of outfielders out there. They have Robin Anthony, they have Willie Abreu, they have
right.
Duran. They already traded away the password earlier in the offseason to get the pitcher from the Pirates here. I think I could see that. I think it's either there if you're trading him, or he's going in a package for as part of a Peralta deal to Milwaukee, because Milwaukee loves those kind of players who, can play well across multiple positions. He's a good defender. I don't know who their third baseman is at the moment, but I feel like they have the ability to use him in multiple spots. That feels like something that's a very Brewerish thing to do.
Yeah, because they love that positional versatility, and usually those guys don't cost as much on the market as well, keeping them long term. It's so difficult because of just the amount of money that they paid Bo currently. And Passon also had mentioned, even if they do sign Kyle Tucker, they would be willing to, go the extra mile, pay a Framber Valdez. It's so much more enticing for me because I had read a report recently as well regarding Freddie Peralta, and we'll just pivot over to the pitchers now. Freddie Peralta wanting to talk extension with the Brewers. They're not interested. I would do this only on the contingency that Peralta is willing to talk extension and do it now. Because
it sounds like his agency is willing to do it now also.
Exactly. So for me, I am willing to give up the prospects in that case. I'm more hesitant if he's not really sure about an extension, because then you say, okay, we pay him based on this market. Stearns knows him. He likes him a lot. Don't have to worry about next year where Tariq Skubal is going to be getting $400 million, presumably from the Dodgers at this rate. I'm just going to go out there and say it unless the Mets stun us, which I don't think with David Stearns.
Or the Phillies.
The Phillies as well. That's a team you had brought up. What would you do, Mike? Because we talked about this last time, but now that we know the Mets have Bo Bichette, would you still prefer them to dip back into free agency and go for a Framber Valdez, or you could toss Zach Gallen out there if you want, or this makes all the sense in the world with the draft capital, the Jets, with all the prospect capital that they have to go in for Freddie Peralta. Do you do Freddie Peralta or Duran or Valdez?
I think you go Peralta. I think Valdez is your backup if you can't get Peralta, because you need to get somebody top rotation, give you quality innings. I think the thing with them is I do think the Dodgers get 4 draft picks and all that money here. I don't think the Mets would love to do that unless they feel they have to. So I think they got to pivot to trading for Freddie Peralta here. And if you're Freddie Peralta and you see this market coming up next year where you're competing potentially for contracts with Tariq Skubal, with Kevin Gossman, with Chris Sale, with a bunch of other guys who are all hitting the market at once here, maybe it's better to say, okay, I'll just jump the market and get myself a deal now, as opposed to risk if I have a down year that I go out and get paid less money and try to compete with all these guys.
Precisely. And I think the only leg that Milwaukee has to stand on in this is that Peralta is only getting paid around $8.5 million. That's really it, right?
They don't have to trade. They could do the Willie Adames.
They don't have to, but I think we all know, like we mentioned last episode, with the lack of Willie Adames, compensation outside the qualifying offer, do they want to go down that qualifying offer route? But it truly seems like, and again, things could change come July, that they could pivot. But I don't see them selling midseason. They would have to have a poor start. Looks like Cardinals, Pirates, uncompetitive. We'll see. I think the Cubbies and them will likely be the favorites for the division there. It's just interesting to me. I think I would rank the moves and what interest that the Mets should have is Peralta at number 1 because pitching is the biggest need. I'd put Duran number 2 because I think trading the surplus of players that they have for a left fielder with years of control would be really nice. And Framber last, just because the likelihood of him signing for long term is unlikely. The amount that he would cost AAV isn't the greatest, and I'd rather just end up trading for a player like Freddie Peralta instead of Valdez. I think Valdez is comfortably 3rd on my list for that. But how about this? Do you see the Mets potentially pushing for two trades, Mike. Peralta and going for Durant. Do you think that's a
You,
possibility, or is that just a bit much in terms of trade capital?
I think it's a bit much. I think
Okay.
like if they're going for Peralta, they probably go for like either like a Lars Nootbaar who passed
Right.
has linked to them multiple times, or they go. And I know this guy mentioned I think today, and that they could go link back up with Harrison Bader, and then having played center field for a year for Carson Bench and left. They could do that as well. But like, I think they people forget they do like as of right now they were starting both Tyrone Taylor and Carson Bench in the outfield. I don't think they want to do that.
Correct. Which I agree with you. I don't think they want to do that. It's difficult for me to say. But they do have the most to offer now in deals like this for a
Yes.
Peralta or even a Duran. I'm not really sure where Duran would line up with other deals. It really just seems like strong whispers of that. I'll toss this out to you now because this is a fun question moment here before we kind of wrap up. If a trade were to happen for Duran, and I know you touched upon it a little bit with Brett Baty, what kind of package is it? Is it a Baty, Peterson, and others, or is it a Sproat having to go back in a deal for Duran? What do you think the Mets could do and should do?
I don't know how much interest the Red Sox would have in like starting pitching. He's the one area where they're stacked because they have all these guys.
Right.
They brought in 2 starters already this offseason, and Ranger Suarez, and they trade for Sonny Gray. They already have Crochet long term. They have Brian Bayo on a contract, a bunch of young guys. So like David Peterson doesn't really fit them as much. It's
It's
probably
the same Harrison as the kid they got for Devers, right?
yeah. I think they have Harris, and they have a lot, and they have those guys like Tolle who started the playoff game.
They have a terrific farm.
Yeah, they have a lot of pitching. Like, I think it's Brett Baty and probably some pieces lower in the system, you might guess.
Interesting. I'm not too sure I know the Red Sox are more keen on moving Duran because of the surplus. Baty makes sense for them, but I would think that, to your point, if it's just Baty and lesser guys on the farm, a deal would have been done by now. I think because that's just a no-brainer for me.
Well, the Mets I was shopping Brett Baty before. I think now they're more open to it.
Yeah, that is true. But even with the Bichette stuff, and again, this isn't too far after Bichette has just agreed to the deal, so obviously they could be working on things. But yeah, if there is a universe in which Duran and Freddie Peralta arrive, I mean, are they division favorites? Are they in the conversation for it? Like right now, I think they're comfortably third, right?
Depends how you feel about Atlanta.
I think Atlanta's primed for a huge comeback here. Health is a huge concern. I don't think their starting staff, if there was a staff that had as many injuries and bad luck as us, it was them. But their lineup also completely capitulated. We've seen Albies have issues. We've seen Acuna have issues. Atlanta to me is just still worrisome. That's a really good lineup when healthy. How healthy will they be?
I wonder if they peaked a little bit, Atlanta. That's something you wonder about.
So?
Them. They might have, because I feel like some of those guys, especially like Albies, I don't know if he's getting back to what he was. Acuna can't stay on the field. That seems to be an issue with them right now.
He's just never going to be the same player, Acuna.
Yeah, Matt Olson did not have a great year last year. He was fine, but he was not like 45 home run Matt Olson that he was a couple of years ago.
I think Riley was the scary one, dude.
Riley getting hurt was not great for them.
But even then, he's still not looking. I really like Austin Riley. He's one of those Atlanta Braves that terrifies me, like a Chipper Freeman type. But Philly too, I'm not in love with. I don't think they're really that good of a squad. They're running it back for the most part. Zach Wheeler, huge question mark. They lost Ranger Suarez.
While we were on the air, JT Realmuto resigned.
I saw that, yes. 3 years for $45 million, I believe. Okay. I mean, good. JT's awesome. He's one of the best catchers of a generation. I think that's kind of an overpay, just me personally. And they have to worry about dumping Nick Castellanos. And from what I was reading the other day, Mike, they have to pay up a lot of his salary just to get rid of him. And now they whiffed on Bo. I think Philly it almost seemed like a slam dunk for Bo to Philly. It felt like that. And
even
now
even if they trade Alec Boehm, I think they would have done it.
I don't think anybody wants Alec Boehm at all. You see the instances in which his defense is suffering, and he's not that good of a bat. developmental, like he didn't develop into the type of hitter that maybe some would have thought he would have been. Philly is a very interesting case study because I think their window is closed. And naturally, considering where their players are in their careers, they have to go for it because of that window. But you, I, and our good friend Will just don't believe that this Phillies window is wide open. People are going to give crap to the Mets, even the Yankees, even the Red Sox for not really adding much. What did the Philadelphia Phillies do this offseason that says to you, okay, they've retooled, they're moving in a good direction? I don't think I've seen anything to indicate that. I know they had a pretty good relief pitcher signing, but that's it.
Yeah, their offseason far as basically Brad Keller retained Real Muto, and they added Adolis Garcia, and they kept Schwarber. That was their offseason so far.
Yes, keeping Garcia or getting Garcia, who, let's be honest, age 33, really not that strong of a year last year in Texas, on the decline. I know his huge moments in the postseason a couple of years ago were what everybody thinks of. I think there is a window for the New York Mets to be aggressive and get further up the echelon and totem pole of the division, because you have to avoid the Los Angeles. I think the only way you beat the Los Angeles Dodgers, Mike, is in a 5-game series. I don't think they're going to be playing in the wild card or the 3-game series again.
Unless it was catastrophically wrong health-wise.
Correct. 5-game series is the way to go. Division's never been more important, I think, in these eras because of the bye that you get. And I don't really care about rest and all this kind of nonsense. I don't know. As a whole, the Mets might be better because you could say to yourself, I don't think the lineup might be as good as of today. But you also kind of sit there and say to yourself, well, the pitching can't be as bad as it was. The bullpen still, in my opinion, has question marks. I'm not convinced by them at all.
They can still
they can. I'm not really sure. I think they'll just move guys to the pen. I don't think they're going to be making a signing unless.
I mean, as a whole, they can still add. They can still add outfield. They can add
starter. Oh yeah, no, of course. I know that. I was just speaking more so on the pen. But if McGill does come back in a Peralta deal, then that changes things. So yeah, any kind of final thoughts or ideas of where the Mets could go within the next 48 hours or right after we hit stop on the recording?
I'll also throw out a Phillies thought also real quick here. It's something like you said, it feels like the Phillies have been light here in the offseason. They do have needs. Like, it's something I'm going to throw out here now. We'll see if I'm right on this one here. I would watch them as a team that can swoop in on Bellinger because this is a group that's pot committed. Right now, they have Brandon Marsh playing left or center. They don't have another outfielder there. Like, they have egg on their face in the Bo Bichette thing, and they could be motivated to say, you know what, like fuck it. We'll give Cody Bellinger 7 years because we're pot committed to this group, and we can push this thing over the top if we have him. So, if you're a Yankee fan,
which is something
I'd be tough the Phillies jump in.
That's a good call because Ken Rosenthal had mentioned that on foul territory, where he was saying, yeah, say Tucker doesn't go to one of these teams, it's going to be aggressive for another player.
And there's no hitters out there better than Bellinger right now.
Unironically, there are not in terms of that. Yeah, for me, Bellinger, do you see Toronto going back in on that? Because I think, again, much like what Tucker was, hey, we are just kind of one piece away, we feel like, because we almost beat the Dodgers, but now they just did add Kyle Tucker and Edwin Diaz.
And we lost.
I think the only way they add Bellinger is if they find a way to dump that Castellanos money.
I don't think they need to. I think, honestly, it's
well, yeah, because it makes sense because of Bichette, but
Bichette $200 million over 7 years. If Cody Bellinger comes at 7 for 180, I think they do it.
I don't think is 7/180 around the number that he's asking for AAV. Wasn't he asking for like 37 or something?
Yeah, because there's also been rumblings that he's willing to come down the number if he gets the years.
I just don't see how it's wise to give Cody Bellinger that. I mean, it's a good enough stadium for him to hit in at Citizens Bank. I think it would be poor on the Yankees for not doing it, but I don't blame the Yankees at all for not biting.
No, Yankees gave a fair offer.
The Yankees gave more than a fair enough offer, and I'm not even one to even attack the Yankees. I don't really. I know you have more vitriol towards them, but
I think issues they should have been in on Kyle Tucker too. They should have been in one of the bids.
Kyle Tucker won from me, and we know this because we live over here in New York. It's embarrassing the Yankees weren't even in on him to be at that table. to me, that's just a joke. And maybe because they're just pivoted like, we know we don't have a chance at that. Cashman knows Hal won't give him the money. It's an odd offseason for the Yankees as of right now. They don't have the draft capital to beat out the Mets in a trade for a Peralta. It's interesting. So we'll see what ends up happening. Huge day for the New York Mets so far. Expect more moves to come. We'll see if Brett Baty ends up elsewhere. We'll see if they acquire some starting pitchers via trade, via free agency. So just in case you guys enjoyed any of this, we got some decent feedback as the YouTube channel is starting to grow. So again, Mike Phillips, you can follow him at mphillips331 on Twitter and all social media platforms. And you can follow me everywhere at Martino Puccio. Mike, anything else before we finish?
I'll throw 2 final thoughts out here on the Met front here. Is like, number one, we talked about in December after Pete left, like, hey, the offseason doesn't end in December here. Why are we screaming when we don't have the plan this year? If you look on pure baseball on B-War, baseball wins above baseball reference here, the 3 guys they lost, Nimmo, McNeil, and Alonso, 8.3 wins above replacement.
What about Diaz? Diaz not involved in it?
I'm not counting. I'm just having position player guys.
Okay, cool. Okay.
And the 3 guys they added, 9.4. So the roster theoretically is better. And important to remember, even before Bo Bichette, some metrics was the 6th best team in the league, just based on wins above replacement. So you never there are more than one way to build team, guys.
I'm sure all the people who go to Citi Field love to hear that because they love baseball war. If it's one thing the average fan loves, it's advanced statistics. And I'm not against them. It's just it's so funny to sell that to the fans. There's just no way they'll ever do it. But yeah, as a whole, and also like to the point of, is pitching going to be really as bad as it was last year? We get full years of McLean. Hopefully Holmes could repeat what he did. Peterson put together a full year. Senga. There's some question marks there, but yeah, I think they definitely have the potential to be a lot better. So, and the other last point.
Yep. In terms of the advanced statistics also, like, I know one thing that the Mets talk about a little bit, like the Athletics talk about this a bit, is that they feel like, in terms of, this is another one's going to be average fans, your Joe Beningos are going to hate this. It's like the analytics, like, basically will tell you that, like, in terms of like how they hit last year, they should have been, I think they averaged about like 9 fewer wins than they should have, because like their sequencing was unlucky in terms of like, like guys not stringing hits together, like runs that meant on base, like. If that
they were poor, with runners in scoring position, and then I think Soto by
even
stats, he was like the 3rd unluckiest hitter in baseball, or the top 3.
Yeah, like if that stuff normalizes here, and this is an 83 win team, just added Bo Bichette to, like, this could be like an 89-90 win team of stuff if you get better luck this year.
Exactly. Mets and luck are always, either they're the luckiest or they're the most unlucky. There's no in between with the Metsies. Last year was one of the unlucky ones, on top of just not being good. So we'll see where the Mets go from here, but they added in an all-star and a really good player in Bo Bichette after missing out on Kyle Tucker. We appreciate you guys so much. We will have plenty of clips and hopefully to do this on a weekly and consistent basis. So if you're a fan of this, please like and subscribe and check us out. And other than that, we'll see you next time.